crisis. Subsequently, when spirulina was publicly announced, what ultimately happened was that the Department of Energy's, a lot of the governments decided to do grants for scalable technologies back then for the cultivation of spirulina. And it was to address the future food shortages, malnutrition that still goes on today, and more importantly, a sustainable solution for the overuse of chemicals in agriculture on the environment, which is a major issue today and certainly was a few years after 74. The idea of trying to make an infrastructure with a system for the future was where I started between 2006 to 2012. I actually went to various places, those raceway ponds. They're raceway ponds, why? Because they look like a raceway. They were used in 1950. These were the systems that they used, and as you can see on this picture, this system is about 1 acre in size, to give you a size. You can see in the distance that there are various airborne problems with regards to environmental issues that enter these particular raceways. And so it is really geared for low productivity for biofuels. It's certainly not human consumption, but they're cheap systems. And there is no cheap way to give optimal health. And therefore, by using plastics in these systems, they already created a problem, which we see today, which is a nanoparticle risk. They're open air, so they have more contamination from the environmental, and will house this 1 acre system in greenhouses. Well, it doesn't become a cheap system anymore. But as you can see, from these white fins that are on this picture, they're made of plastic. And as we use salts for spirulina growth, and as we use trace elements as far as the nutrition, they abrase with the plastic, as this is actually moving round by that paddle wheel you see, and therefore they shave minute nanoparticles off. So there is no real gain by adding the greenhouse, apart from, it slows down some environmental issues, but doesn't eradicate them. These systems are using the sun. There is major overheating from the sun. I don't think anybody has kind of worked out how we can control the light, the heat, the ultraviolet that comes from the sun. So there's inherently more heat involved because of the enclosure. But now they've become very labour intensive to run. Greenhouses, because it became expensive, was to put them in, as you can see, these plastic bags, hanging bags, they called them. Still a nanoparticle risk, actually even more than before, but certainly single-use plastics, you can't get the algae out unless you actually break the bags. And, the huge mess that would cause today meant that this system was never further adopted in the algae world from the year 2000. But again, it was another idea, another engineering idea to move technology forward. So it's a requisite. These are plastic tubes. These plastic tubes are tubular bioreactors. They have some form of computer control. However, from point A, where the algae enters the first tube, and it goes all the way through this run, it's about 30 kilometers long. They're exposed to sunlight, and so there's no heat really or any light control. I don't know if anybody's tried, but anybody who has to clean these tubes to get the algae out, they're 30 kilometers long, and you can't do that unless you dismantle it. So there's inherent production downtime. There's also downtime in regards to if there's not much sun at a certain level, you can't grow algae. So there's a few big issues in regards to this, but certainly nanoparticles still exist because they're made of plastic. We love engineering, so somebody came up with a great idea and said, well, we'll put a greenhouse over these again. Great. But more importantly, what they did do is they actually made these tubes now out of glass. Well, by making the tubes out of glass, as you saw previously with the plastic, the glass tubes now eradicated the problem with nanoparticles. So we did go forward a step. The issue is we still have 30 kilometres in length or more. There is the ability to break this down to clean them, which is a necessity, and therefore there is lack of production. But more importantly, you still have the inherent problem of the greenhouse heating up, because again we're using sun. So what this resulted in was basic computer control, great to control the algae, but it increased the algae output, but extremely low nutritional profile for sure. We patented the use of, to get rid of the sun basically that nobody could control, the use of LED lights with different wavelengths, not only to grow spirulina, but different algae, different strains of algae for different things. And this patent in 2012 actually standardized the photobioreactor industry, which occurred in 2019 when it was finally granted. So we started to look at standardizing certain aspects to make sure that people could get optimal nutrition, especially with spirulina at this stage. My conclusion after testing was, and I'm not going to read out the list, I'm just going to make some highlights, is we've got to address the issue of contamination. We can't use plastics. We need to use something that all restaurants around the world use, and that is stainless steel. Why? Because there's no nanoparticle risk, and more importantly, you can use chemicals to clean very easily without degrading stainless steel. It's basically a material for validity for 20 plus years. Nutrients could be modified to optimize the growth, so getting more production out. But also, more importantly, due to our patent, is to actually monitor the light spectrum, temperature, pH precisely, so giving it the right lights at the right time when the algae needs it, and obviously optimizing the nutrients so the algae can eat when they want to eat and not overfeed them. And so we also needed to look at minimizing land. Land is precious, and so we wanted to make sure that we could develop a system that would go not only horizontally, as you've seen in the past systems I've as an engineer tested, but more importantly to see whether we could go vertically, i.e. vertical farming. And so I did decide to challenge the industry, and it was 2019. We basically developed, you can see this picture just very quickly, and we'll go into this in depth, but an award-winning photobioreactor. And it basically, the bioreactor aligns itself with nature in the way it functions. And you'll see later on, you can't make a cell grow any faster than nature intended it to grow, but you can align it with nature for it to grow very efficient, and we'll discuss that later on in this presentation. So this is a 2-meter module. It holds approximately 1,000 litres of algae and water broth. It's made of 316 stainless steel, which is a very good stainless steel that they use in restaurants today, to give you an idea. It uses pharma-grade materials, so it's already pharma-grade as far as a bioreactor, unlike the other tubeless systems or any other systems. It is the only system that's been registered industrially here in Spain and still stands today. And it's got a 20-plus year lifespan. You can also see that this not only can be connected, this 2 meters to another 2 meters, so enhance demand. We can just keep bolting 2 meter sections together horizontally, but we can actually go up vertically 3, 4, 5 levels. The lighting squares that you see on this particular picture are designed to mimic the sun, and they are completely computer controlled by our software called BOSS, which means Bioreactor Operating System. The air and the CEO gets pumped in from the bottom, and this creates air bubbles that mix the algae, the spirulina, so that it can find its food, but ultimately pressurize this container so that pathogens or any contaminants from the outside environment can't get in. It's always pushing out, which means it has the seal of GMP and pharma grade for the future. It's future-proof. So as you can see, we took and we bolted, you can see the first level. This is 15 metres long of the 2 metre sections. 30 metres long, 15 2-metre sections, beg pardon. And we've gone up. So this is a total of 90 linear metres over 3 levels. And to give you an idea, compared to the acre raceway that you saw at the beginning that we tested, well, ultimately, this produces as much as that 1 acre and uses a footprint of land of 30 metres in length by 1.5 metres in width, or 1 to 1.5 metres in width. So 30 square metres approx, as opposed to nearly 4,000. So you can see a big difference. And once again, we'll touch on that data later. Bioreactor technology to the pipes you saw. If you look at the guy's hand, the pipes are no wider in diameter than his hand. And I'm actually sitting in one of our reactors, so yeah, that's why we got it sealed and stamped as industrial grade. Look at the litres of algae growing. Well, in the 3 systems, the main systems, which is the top one, Raceway, second, the tubular bioreactors, and our one, which is the third, you can see we've gone from 4,000 square metres to 2,300 to 750 square metres in regards to that. And, we've moved on with regards to food, feed, pharma, grade algae. Ours is sustainable in the materials used, unlike the other previous 2 systems. But more importantly, this is grown inside a building, in which case we can grow, because we have the LED artificial light, we can grow 12 months a year, 365 days a year, with no downtime, unlike the summer months that you need to grow the outdoor systems that are either contaminated or have poor nutrient yield. So that is a real milestone on that fact. Like everyone to home in on the superfood, the superfood was grown in the previous systems, which are the race-weight bonds for the UN. And typically, the reason why it is classed as superfood is we just take 2 particular points here. The first one being protein, the second being iron. You can see that the spirulina and why they endorsed in 1974 as superfood was it's twice as much protein as meat, 22 times more protein than any other vegetable, and in iron it's 11 times more than beef and 28 times for fish. You can see the numbers there. However, you can't make spirulina cells grow any faster than nature intended. I wish we could, but you can't if we do it naturally. But we can make the algae adapt, and that's what makes our particular system so robust, is the efficiency. So applying this to our bioreactor, we went from a superfood, from the numbers, slightly higher in protein, slightly higher in iron, well, all the way down and more. But our system gives us an edge of between 17 and 20% of more nutrient density, hence why we call it the hyperfood today. So we moved on. If we for recognition of the most advanced industrial algae photobioreactor in the world, this was awarded, and our hyperfood nutrient density that we're all used to today in Spiramax is, and obviously with the PhycoSci, is really based into the hyperfood to support our body's immune and nutritional demands. It's made from Spirulina maxima, unlike you see Spirulina platensis. Spirulina platensis is around the world, but it's unfortunately maxima, hence why the Spirulina is called maxima, actually gives us more density and allows us to make that extra 17 and 20% as discussed earlier. However, where there's good, there's also questions of bad and solutions we need to make. So when we received this award in 2019, the FAO, the Food Agriculture Organization, actually announced that human iron deficiency was actually linked to the lack of iron and trace elements in the soil of the crops. So it means that people should have taken spirulina back then, and even now should be taking spirulina more than ever to replace that lack of trace elements that still is in our soils today in our food crops. hence why the nutrition density of our food is at least about 50 to 60% lower than in 1950, for example. So, agriculture organisation, we found that the water, after we take the spirulina out and make the pills with it, we've got a load of water that's grown in, we've got a load of nutrients. Well, we took those nutrients and we did a test, and we found, as you can see in the first picture here, that the crop without, first picture, was, it grew with standard fertilisers used today. Then we used our water that the spirulina grew, and we found that the B12 vitamin that's in the spirulina actually boosted the crop, and you can see that obviously in the second picture on the far right of the screen. So not only did we create a technology basically to give hyperfood to mankind and just eradicate malnutrition, but we actually gave the farmers a chance to reverse their crop nutrition decline, and in such a way where they could actually make more money because the crop will be heavier, they sell by the kilo. So that has started, and that will come later on in our technology roadmap. So the technology solved human and crop nutrition problems. I'm not going to go through the list. People are welcome to look at that or request it. But basically, we've got the hyperfood spirulina supplements, and you can see there anti-inflammatory for phycocyanin, and all of the nutrition profile as far as amino acids, and a very high protein content. Typically 67 to 70% is where we're at the moment, and always trying to push that border. It also helps to combat iron deficiency, anemia as well. Not only that for the supplements, but for the agriculture, the water that the algae is grown in, which is the byproduct, is extremely good as a great fertiliser, in fact an organic fertiliser at that. And so from our tests, we found that the crops grow at a rate of about 175, depending on what the crop is, but 175% to 300% more output on that farm. We actually got to look at photosynthesis. We've moved on. It's been a few years since we started this journey. Now looked at the human body. What does the human body need when it needs it? Which sparks a million questions and an R&D roadmap that is second to none. But the future technology is looking at the human body and saying, okay, we need the sun, we need water, we need temperature, we need nutrients to carry life. We're made up of water. And so looking at how it works, well, if we need that, which is photosynthesis, effectively, we also have systems such as the gut, which I'm sure JJ will discuss later on. But the gut is really a fermentation, if you like, reactor. So we decided to look at what we could do to make a more advanced photobioreactor or reactor. With this new technology, we're going to house fermentation technology, which is requisite for actually oil production in the future, omega-3 oil, and the photosynthesis with spirulina. So we combined, we've got a state-of-the-art patent, state-of-the-art photobioreactor and fermentation technology. We called it the hybrid or the unified system. We're pleased to announce that that's a project that started with Zinzina, and this is certainly going to be, without a doubt, a real technological achievement, and it will be a blueprint for the future. It opens up a whole world of formulas specific for humankind and beyond. So oils, phycocyanin, eggs, gold, etc., etc. That'll be sustainable, but more importantly, all the packaging that contains, the bottles and the what have you, will also be made from our algae as well. So we're really using everything that nature gives us. So we plan to refine how the world grows crops for our children and the next generation, and for us, to increase that nutrition profile, to look at refining how people eat and then take nutrients, and how we can thrive by looking after our environment to make the future a wonderful place for everybody. So that's it. And again, by the end of this year, we're going to be sharing the advancements of the technology with everybody. But this is right now, really, the way I see it is it's more than a product, and it's really more than a technology. It's going to be something for the future. Certainly some philosophy and maybe even a movement with you guys. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you guys are. Thanks very much. The fermentation part, and then enhance even further the bioavailability, and also further extraction of components from spirulina. At the moment we have phycocyanin. We also have various other things that we're working on, like chlorophyll, chlorophyllin, but really it's almost like a chef's dream, I guess, in a kitchen. You can just take the recipe of spirulina and extract what you want and make something great that supports certain parts of human health if you want to look at that. So that's all I can give you, unfortunately, JJ, until December.
No, that's good. That's fine. It's just I saw a couple of questions going through quickly at the same time you were talking. So I'm sure a lot of people are wondering before anyone has the chance to go over Oviedo, where our technology is, and able to visit and see from your own eyes. And again, this technology is the only one on the planet. It doesn't exist anywhere else. You want to add something, Tino?
I think you just said it. It doesn't exist anywhere else. The hype is light years in front of, I think, most people. It's a journey that basically makes everything sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's in a building that's in an environment that is completely clean. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I've eaten food off the floor. It's where I've been sleeping underneath a bioreactor now and again. So it is clean. It's super clean. It's going to be a great journey, and we're looking forward to sharing that. But certainly for everybody, it's going to open a door of optimal health.
Major crisis in 74, in 68, 74, where United Nations actually had to come up with a plan quickly. And so they mentioned that spirulina was going to be, or they were hoping that it was going to be the answer to malnutrition, basically children malnutrition, in particular because a lot of kids were dying back in Africa and in Asia as well. So basically they decided that spirulina, hoping it was going to be the superfood of the century. So imagine back then in 74 with spirulina being dried in the sun because they had no other ways to do it, over a lot of times over 30 degrees temperature, which actually kills a good content of proteins in the algae. And yet it was still considered, and with the early pollution, not like we have now, but it was already starting. And by definition, a microalgae is a scavenger of toxins or all sorts of things that environment. So what they did to respond to the crisis is they sent Doctor Without Frontier, world doctors, in villages. They went all over, and they started trying to give spirulina to newborns, basically infants who had a few hours to live, basically, and some of the times. And they've done such a great job that they went back and told the UN, basically, that they were confident that spirulina could stop this crisis from given to newborns up to 10 years old, would stop the malnutrition from newborns to 10 years old. 1 gram only. And that was Spirulina, Tino said it, platensis. And platensis is the one that you find in any shop in any country, on any continent. And it's even the one always referred in the science, where every scientific publication coming out from a long time is Spirulina platensis, because that's the one everybody makes, because it's cheap to make, it's quick, the cost is quite easy, it goes easy on the business. So basically what we have here is Spirulina maxima. It's genetically, it's two different ones. And Spirulina maxima you can only find in 3 places in the world. The one that you can find is Oviedo with this amazing technology, and you've got 2 other places, southwest of the US, I believe, and Mexico. But this is basin. It's being still used in pools, grown in pools. It's got nothing to do with those bioreactors, so with the problem of the environment, pollution, and all sorts of things that, the heat, like Tino's talked about the heat, which is really important because you have an amazing turnover when you're able to put the temperature, the right temperature at the right time for just the amount of time that is needed. And you can only do that in a computer when you actually control the environment, and with LED light that doesn't harm the protein. So the latest, and Tino will be able to confirm, but the latest test that they've done in Oviedo on comparing platensis to the maxima that comes from the bioreactors, talking about the micronutrition level, there's a gap of about between 15 and 20%, and I believe the last result was 17%. So the maxima is higher in micronutrition than any of the platensis that you find on the planet, basically. And the platensis is will always have this problem of the environmental context, basically. So that's the thing that is really understand. So if United Nations were talking about superfood back then, what is the food that we have here? Mega food, you name it. You guys can come up with a name comparing the two from 1974 to what we have here with the technology. So it's absolutely mind-blowing. The fact that the Spirulina is now being tested in many countries, many labs, and I'd like to come to my my subject. So basically, if you guys go on internet, it was the largest conference of the past 10 years in immunomicrobiology. All the best researchers came from all the continents, and there was nearly 100 of them. There was only 34 of us, because I was invited as a speaker, 34 speakers, and I had the same speaking time as everybody else. I was told 3 weeks before that they had finished at European level. It started at Gustave Roussy in Paris, and a few countries in Europe took part of the job. They finished in May the largest randomized trial using omega-3s, PUFAs, to see how much they could improve the immunotherapy treatment or the immune checkpoint inhibitors. Well, it's supposed to work. And not only it didn't work, but the results were very negative. So why is that? And I told them, in nature, and Paul Clayton explains it very well, you never see fatty acids without their polyphenol to prevent those fatty acids or omega-3s to oxidize. And so basically what happened is that you would think at the European level they would, have their hands on the best products, but no, because this is what we have all the time. All these vegetable oils is doing the same job. They're all oxidized, all of them. And so if you are going to use a type of fat to bring into our intestinal tract, so the gastrointestinal tractus is made of cells. Some of them, the ones that are important, are called epithelial cells. And which type of fat are you going to give those? What are they made of to start with, mostly? Well, they're called phospholipids. If you're going to give them triglycerides from the marine world, the fish, the only marine fat that is a phospholipid is the krill oil. But krill oil is disappearing. And then you've got this major problem of the microplastics. We now have results, a lot of results from the Americans, the Chinese, the Japanese, finding up to 7 grams of microplastics in people's brain. And it's all over the body, basically, in different organs. So the importance of creating a type of fat that we're made of, well, that's what we do. Making the oil from the algae, what you get, the final result is phospholipid, is what we're made of. And we can use polyphenols from olive oil or tocopherols from the algae to protect the final product. So I'd like you to realize what we have in our hands with this technology, which is absolutely fabulous to protect our young generation in particular, because what we see in kids is absolutely atrocious. So that's the real story about what we have and how we're going to go forward. The spirulina, the super spirulina maxima that we have is going to feed the planet. When you know that if you take 5 to 6 grams per day, there's basically no need to eat for the rest of the day. If you want to fast, give yourself a break. Give your organs a break. Do this and come back to me. I promise you, it's mind-blowing, the result. So that's how much the quality of our spirulina will save a lot of people from a young age. And then we've got the gold, the X-Gold. So the X-Gold, I was asked to talk about a little bit, but we have a technical sheet for everyone to read. Illness, but what I like to do is people to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. So the reason the reason why we actually came up with the X-Gold is to formulate a curcumin product that actually assembles a totem, which means the totality of the bioactives that are important, that play a role basically, and make it bioavailable for the body, because we know curcumin is not very bioavailable unless you start taking pills or capsules that are nanocapsules. But this X-Gold has been doing anti-inflammatory results, have been giving us results along the years that is pretty much surprising. And for you guys to understand what it really is, you'll be able, if not already, to read and to process the technical sheet that we came up with, which is easy to read. So I think I went over pretty much all that I wanted to go through. And if you guys have questions, Tino and I are very happy to answer those questions. You gotta understand something. Phycocyanin is a pigment. It's the most complex, complete pigment that actually exists on the planet. It's one of the 4 pigments which exists in one single product, algae. When you look at the chemical formula of our blood or of the plants, they're very similar. But in our blood, we've got a blood, what do you call it?
Hemoglobin.
Yeah, hemoglobin. But it's a blood. I'm looking for the word, but it will come back. But when you look at the formula of the plant, basically it's got the magnesium.
Chlorophyll.
And when you look at the phycocyanin, they found both in the phycocyanin itself, which made the researchers say, well, this was actually the beginning of life on Earth. And at some point, because oceans were there before plants, and at some point, the two actually, iron and magnesium, went their own way, giving life to plants and giving life to animals and humans. And so what they found out quickly is that the phycocyanin is extraordinary, adding basically or having a role on oxygen the blood. So it's absolutely incredible. And then as you have the full spectrum of amino acids in the spirulina, even the non-essential, the full spectrum, all of them, the 20 of them. Well, you can understand that, these being an energy transporter, you've got the full spectrum of the energy transporter. So altogether, we have a magnificent tool for sports people, high-level sports people.
Yeah, I would add to that, JJ, as well, and that is, the studies that we've done. But if people want a good workout, let's say, then I would suggest, because you've got to get the anti-inflammatory off after training, but you've got to make sure that you've got, as you said so rightly, you've got to make sure that you've got the oxygen in the blood to go to the muscles to basically exercise and have a good workout. So ultimately you need to take a pre-workout, which is phycocyanin, without a doubt, and you should take 15 to 20 minutes prior. You should take what I would class as a therapeutical dose, as you've mentioned as well, JJ, previously, and the therapeutical dose is 16 mils minimum. That's a therapeutical dose, so 2 8 mils, and you put it in your 500 mils a litre, half a litre. You take that, 15 minutes later, you go for your workout. But it's important, as JJ has said, that in order to have the building blocks for, to be active, you've got to make sure you have the nutrition. So during, and you need to hydrate during that workout, you should be taking spirulina. Hydrate with water, but take 4 or 5 pills, during that gym time. And at the end, very important that you load up again on the phycocyanin to reduce the anti-inflammatory, whereby the nutrition goes into the muscles. You've got the building blocks of the protein, and then you've got the anti-inflammatory, which you must take. Really, you should take immediately after, which again is a double dose of phycocyanin to get recovery. And if you do that, and it'd be great to get some feedback from people actually on this, because we know we've tested it. But the great thing is that after you do a couple of weeks taking that, it depends how many times you train, but if you do it a couple of weeks and you take that, as I've mentioned, you'll find that you'll have more stamina as you work out. You'll need to work out harder because of it as a precursor. And ultimately, listen, give me your thoughts. But that's a real rock and roll recipe for positive energy, for sure.
That's amazing. We'll have to get the feedback on that one. And basically, we don't ever have to eat ever again, by the sounds of things.
Not with 5 grams of spirulina.
But I like eating. Anyway, a really popular question is, can you mix the PhycoSci and X-Gold together in a drink? And some people say, can that also be mixed with biotic? So that all 3 of them in one drink, or should that be avoided because it's too much?
It depends the amount of water you mix it with, really.
Yeah, I would suggest you dilute that down quite a bit. And I think I've mentioned to you before, JJ, people like to mix things, and there's no harm in mixing things, but don't mix the full dose of X-Gold or the full dose of PhycoSci together. If you do, double up on the water. I mean, you're going to need at least a litre of water if you decide to do that, rather than the recommended 200 mils for the dose of X-Gold and 200 mils, or half a litre total. I would dilute it a lot. That's my point of view. JJ?
Yes, absolutely. But when you talk about those 3 products, if you talk about the 3 products, the impact that it has on the microbiome, on the intestinal microbiome, they all have a great impact in terms of prebiotic mixing the phycocyanin, which they discovered in me and then in mice. So if you take the prebiotic, the xenobiotic, it makes total sense. And when you know the impact that curcumin has, it's very well documented on the microbiome. Well, it's a no-brainer, basically.
But I also feel like you're saying take it over don't drink down it in one, drink it over an extended period.
From what we've studied and researched over years, and what obviously Jean-Jacques, JJ, is doing now and continues to have done previous with me, actually. I think it's important to know that, yes, you can mix everything, but you've got to take a higher dose of water to dilute it down. The reason why we say that, is cells like algae require certain doses of nutrition at certain times of the day, but also they require not to be flooded. For example, I'll give you a very easy example. When we grow our algae, or when people grow their algae in a raceway pond, as we know in the past, it's almost like you put all the food, all the fatty foods, the healthy foods, you put it all on the table like a banquet. And this algae in this bioreactor says, wow, look at that, I'm going to take the whole lot. And you find that it has a negative effect on that cell of algae. It can have a negative effect if you overload the system with too much all at once. And that's why I say, yeah, mix it, no problem. It's not going to harm you. It's all natural. But dilute it. Dilute it down so that you're having a lot more time with that dilution throughout your cells. You're not just hammering it home, because otherwise it will be a banquet, and the cells will they'll change their circadian rhythm basically as a result.
Okay, amazing. There was one interesting question about hemochromatosis. Rebecca did answer it from a Zanzino point of view. Have you two got any insights onto how you would approach advising someone about the spirulina and PhycoSci with that?
It's all about systemic chronic inflammation. All of these join in as a low-grade chronic inflammation. So obviously, I recommend everyone to start very slow and to go up in doses as time progresses and how the person feels. But it just, you have to be sensible, basically.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much. We really have tried to get through all the questions we possibly can, and I'm so sorry if we haven't got to everybody's questions, and we've tried to do a broad range.